everybody, welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. Today we've got a few little jobs to do on our Ram 1500 pickup. And the first one is kind of bizarre. So the other day we were out driving around and let's get the ignition powered up here. The radio all of a sudden started giving me these crazy messages. Do you want to reset the time? Do you want to reset the time? And it wouldn't let me do it. And it kept having a convulsion over and over and over and over again. I found that to be quite odd. But I did a little reading, and it turns out that you need to check for screen delamination because that is a problem on these 8.4 Chrysler radios. And it causes all kinds of ghost button pushes and buttons not to work. And you could see here, you could just see up in the corner there, that little line that goes across like that. Our screen is starting to delaminate. Now, the screen is actually two pieces. The LCD screen, which is just in behind this, and this, the part that you touch, which is the digitizer, which actually does the touch screen stuff. That's the digitizer. So that is where the problem, there's like an adhesive in between the two of these that acts as a thermal break. Unfortunately, the adhesive starts to melt over time and run down and ooze out the bottom of this. So it's an easy fix. Number one, you could try to get it apart yourself, which we're going to do first, and fix it with some double-sided Gorilla Tape. Or worst case, you can buy a new digitizer off Amazon for like 60 bucks. So anyway, we're going to go the $10 route and try to fix it with some tape first. See? Do you want to adjust your clock settings? No. And then that message will just keep coming up over and over and over again while you drive. It's really weird. Anyway, we're going to go ahead now. First thing we have to do is get this bezel off. Pretty easy. You pull out, let me get my little screwdriver here. You pull out the bottom of this. You see that? That lifts up. And there's two Phillips screws underneath there. I think they're Phillips. No, they're Torx T20s. Hang on. If your truck has bucket seats and the big center console like this one does, you also have to remove this rubber thing from in there, and you'll find two Phillips screws in there, and this rubber thing comes out of the floor of the console there, and you'll see a screw in there. It's a 6mm hex. So to take these two parts off, 3 different drivers. I don't know why they wouldn't use the same for all of them, but this just, you can see here, it just comes up like that, up, and oh, you gotta close the door. Up and back, like that. And then this panel pulls straight back. Man, that's a lot of work to get that thing down. And you just be careful. Some of these plastic trim tools help, because you can get in behind and kind of work it a little bit. Now, at this point, if you wanted, you could unplug all of these things and take this whole panel right the heck out of here. But we don't really need to do that. It's really hard to see. There, you can see that, how this thing is starting to delaminate all the way across there. That is probably our problem. Now we'll just use our driver. I think that's 6 again. And get this thing 4 screws out. Then we can unplug all the plugs at the back and move to the bench. There we go. It should come right up. Yep. Now, if you take this apparently into the dealership, they can't do this sort of repair. It's just re and re, right? So apparently they changed the radio, and it's upwards of $1,400 to have that job done. Ouch. So we'll have a go at fixing it. Right now I've got less than $20 invested in materials, some 2-sided tape and a bottle of rubbing alcohol to clean the glue. If that doesn't go as planned, you can buy the digitizer on Amazon for $66. If I haven't mentioned that already, that is our ace in the hole. There we have it, and now you can see the damage or the delamination. So we'll get this on the bench. We're probably going to go in the house to do this and get this all cleaned up, and I'll show you how it works. Gosh, look at that, will you? A 4-year-old truck, and I got to do stuff like this to it. First thing we have to do is get this trim bezel off. And what you got to do, you can see here how it's clipped over these little barbs, right? So we just very slowly work our way around, and eventually we'll get it. And you have to watch at the bottom. This is metal because this is actually the antenna for your Wi-Fi, your hotspot. So there is a little wire that's attached to the back of this and goes back into the board. So we have to be careful not to break that, and the wire is at the bottom. So we're going to start. I only know that because I watched a video about how to do this. I don't use the hotspot thing in the car, but maybe one day I might. And it's just a matter of going around. We can bend these tabs up because we can bend them back down after. So there you can see we've got this flip back out of the way, and you can see there that's the ribbon cable coming down from the digitizer. What we have to do now is get up under the corner of this and start slowly and very carefully working it off so we can get the glue. There it is right there, see? And you just very slowly, here it comes. So we're slowly working this thing away. You can see here, we just use these little plastic tools and work very slowly. Look at the glue. Look at, oh, awful, horrible stuff. And eventually, we'll get this thing off. Now that we've got to this point, we can gently flip this over. You see here, there's the ribbon cable. We want to be very careful of that. Now, what we have to do is get all this glue off. So to do that, we're going to use some isopropyl alcohol, which is apparently quite good at getting it off. Well, that was a lot of work, but I've got the glue off the screen. Now we need to get the glue off the digitizer, and I'm just trying to figure out how to. I have to support this without damaging the ribbon cable and without damaging our antenna wire. This is going to be a lot more fun. We managed to get all the glue off the screen. Now we're working at getting the glue off the digitizer. So it's a lot more fragile because it's just a tiny little piece of glass stuck on the end of this ribbon cable. So we're just going slow and easy, and we'll get it. This, I believe, is a very thin piece of glass. So I think the glue will maybe come off of this easier than it came off the other thing, but we'll find out. Now we can start putting this thing back together. And we're going to use this Gorilla 2-sided tape, the 15-pound hold one. They have another one that's 30-something pound hold, but in case we have to take this thing apart again, let's go with this lighter stuff, eh? Oh, it's very sticky. Okay, now I have to figure out how I'm going to do this. This Gorilla tape is really super sticky. So we've got this thing sitting on wax paper because the Gorilla tape doesn't seem to stick to that. So what we're going to do is use a razor blade. There we go. This stuff is nasty sticky. Now we're going to go along here and cut it. There we go. Now we're going to just do the same thing and work our way all the way around it. We just stick this to the black perimeter of the screen. Now the last step is to stick this thing on. So we're going to give it just another quick wipe with the microfiber cloth to make sure there's no dust or anything. Same with this. And then we have to go around and pick off the backing. There we go. My old fingers and my old eyes. Because this Gorilla Tape is for keeps, boys and girls. Okay, so here we go. We've got our Gorilla Tape all peeled back. This is the last step. You just start with one corner, work it down, let it go down. Good. And then just go around it. Okay. Now we just have to be very careful. There's our little Wi-Fi antenna. And we'll just carefully snap the cover back over it. Oh, there's the finished product. I'm going to let it sit because when I flipped it over, a bunch of rubbing alcohol all came pouring out of it. And I want to tell you something that I learned. If you're doing this, do it somewhere well ventilated and maybe wear some rubber gloves because I don't know if that's stuff from breathing it or from it soaking through my skin. But I had to take a little time out because I got like kind of like not feeling good for a few minutes. But anyway, I'm on the mend now, so we're going to have dinner and then I'll go put this back in the truck and we'll see how it works. All right, well, we can put this thing back in now. All these little plugs that go in the back of it are color-coded, so we can't get them in the wrong place. Pink, yellow, etc. So we'll get this all hooked up, get the thing stuck back in, and hopefully we can get the ignition turned on with everything apart just to make sure it works. Well, there it is. It's working, but it doesn't seem to have any sound. I'll have to see if there's a mute button or something. That was weird. There's our radio. Working properly. The time is off. Sync time with GPS. That's interesting. That's the problem that it was having before. Let me work with it. All right, it seems to be working properly. There's no funny marks or anything on it. It all looks good. And we got the time adjusted. So let's see how this thing works over time. All right, let's see what happens. Well, it seems to be working. So I guess it's okay. We'll have to see once we start driving it, because usually this monkey business with the clock would start after you've been driving for 15 or 20 minutes. We'll have to take it for a drive and see what happens with that. But anyway, for now, I'm going to put the dash of the console and everything all back together. Next job we have to do on this truck is replace the T-handles on our cap. What happens with these is the weather gets in there and seizes the locks. The latch still works, but we can't lock it anymore. I've since learned that you could buy these little rubber booties that you put over them, and that keeps the weather out of the locks. So we'll swap them out and change those. It's pretty straightforward. You loosen this grub screw to pull the actual lock lever off, and then there's two screws that hold the T-handle on from the back. Alright, so both of them are changed now. They work. You can just feel it. You can feel it when it gets to there. Grab the inner structure. So it's tight enough to not rattle, but not too tight that it's not easy to operate. This one's the same. So now we'll make sure they both lock. There we go. Now Deb can lock her cap again. Good. Perfect. So last thing I'll do is squirt a little grease or oil down in them and put the rubber booties on. Last thing, very important, was to swap the new key onto my key ring, because this one won't do me any good anymore. Now the last thing I have to deal with is something kind of embarrassing, and it got me in big trouble. Because remember, this is Deb's truck, not mine. I was backing it into the barn, and I got a little close to something, and I did this. Lucky, I am lucky that it never touched the actual body of the truck. It touched the flare, which is still not good, don't get me wrong, but worst case scenario, you could take the flare off, carry it to a body shop, have them fix it and paint it, or get another flare if they decided this couldn't be fixed. But anyway, what we're going to do right now is just kind of give it a little touch up, and I got to loosen the bolts and see if I can twist it back around, because you can see here it's gotten pulled away from the body, but you can see I can manipulate it and get it back close. So we're going to see what we can do about that. Hopefully I can get it fixed up. I loosened the screws in the wheel well and kind of pushed on it and tightened the screws back up, and I've got the flare back tight against the body now. That's good. So now we're going to see what we can do about this this scratch. Oh, what a mess. Man, I can't tell you the amount of trouble that I got in for this, and well, deservedly so. It was a big mistake on my part. Anyway, let's see what we can do with this. First thing I got to do is this piece of plastic here that's gotten pulled away. We're just going to trim that off and go from there. I got this coming along quite nicely. I'll work on that some more after. Right now, I've got this, I've taped up either side of this scratch, and I've got one of these touch-up pens, and we're just going to very, very, very gently just dab in the tiniest little amount of paint. You don't, with this stuff, it's really hard to brush it on because it always ends up so much thicker than the factory paint, and you end up with this big, like scar, you know, along your scratch. So we're just going to slowly, slowly, slowly dabble a tiny bit in there. And it will end up a tiny bit proud of the surface, and you can come back later with some 1200 wet or dry and dress it down. and it'll be just fine. Sorry, the camera's shaking. I'm shaking the paint. If I shake, you shake. There's the first little bit. I'll let that set up a little bit, then give it another coat, then we'll pull off the tape and see how bad it looks. Well, let's pull the bandages off and see what it looks like. There you go. If you look real close, you can see it. But it looks a heck of a lot better than that big black scratch that was across it. There's still a little bit of edge to it. I'll get a little tiny block, like I said, in some 1200 paper and just dress that down a little bit. But I got to leave this stuff to get good and hard for a day or two before we do that. Well, that'll do it for this one. That thing with the radio, man, that just blows my mind. And I looked on YouTube. That is not an uncommon occurrence. Like there's on YouTube, there's hundreds of videos of people fixing those radios with the exact same problems that this one had. Crazy, crazy, crazy that they would put junk like that in brand new cars. Like millions of them when they have a problem like that. Anyway, welcome to the 21st century. That's how it goes now. I'm going to take off now. I got a million other things I need to be doing. What else is new, right? I want to thank you for tuning in. I hope you'll come back and join us again. And until then, this is Kevin checking out from the Claremont Classic Garage. So long for now.